Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now my whole team fucking here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now my whole started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now my whole team fucking here. I done kept it real from the jump. I done kept it real from the jump. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now my whole team fucking here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now my whole team fucking here. Started from the bottom, now we. I done kept it real from the. I done kept it real from the jump. Living at my mama's house, we argue every month, nigga. I done kept it real from the jump. Living at my mama's house, we argue every month, nigga. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now my whole team fucking here. I done kept it real from the jump. I done kept it real. I done kept it real from the jump.
Chop it up. 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 Chop it up.
What's up, everybody? Your boy Oz in the building, as per the usual on Chop It Up with Jena and Oz, the always beautiful Jena. How are you?
I'm doing mighty fine tonight, mighty fine. I don't know why I put a southern accent on it. My apologies. Hi, everyone. Good evening.
I was about to say you a West Coast girl.
I am about to be a Midwest girl.
Yeah. It's a Midwest swang, y'all. Anyway. What's up, everybody? Welcome to this is going to be an awesome version of Chopping Up with Jena and Oz, and we just got two shows coming up. We're going to plug real quick, and then we're going to get the proceeding this evening. And the first one coming up here on the 3rd, I believe it is another installment of What's Your Story. Myself and my real life Aunt Kathy, that was a lifelong Christian, now atheist, non-believer, and she's got quite the story to tell herself. So that'll be on the 3rd, and I'm going to guarantee you there's going to be tears involved involved in this stream. So so we're doing that, and then I believe it's the 17th. Because little sis, Biddy Buddha couldn't jump on my birthday stream last week because she lives way out where internet only works like 2 or 3 hours of the day, and
the very, very edge of the flat Earth.
Yeah, she lives way on the edge of the flat Earth, and couldn't hang out. So we're gonna have a special edition of whiskey, scotch, and cigars, and I didn't upload the thumbnail for this, but y'all are familiar with Biddy and I. But it's just gonna be old school Biddy and Oz chopping it up, talking about the Bible, its inconsistencies, and having some fun and having some drinks in the meantime. So again, that'll be on the 17th, 10 p.m. Eastern time, and Aunt Kathy's show, which I'm honoring my elders and my aunt, and that's going to be at 9 p.m. Eastern time on her request. per her request. But those will be awesome. It'll be fun. But
2 quick announcements, if I may, because
Oh, yeah, I
I
did
always
miss
remember. Yes, tomorrow evening. Thank you, babe. Tomorrow evening, 10 p.m. Eastern time, we will be, and I apologize, I haven't created the thumbnail or uploaded the stream yet, but this will be a live stream to help raise funds to assist our good friend, the Afro-Humanist, also known as Esther. Y'all know and love her because we love her too, to raise funds to help assist in burying her recently deceased dad. So we are going to have that live stream tomorrow evening, 10 p.m. Eastern, to help support Esther. She may or may not be here because she's in a whole different other time zone. So don't anticipate her being here, but we're doing this still in support and love for her. Also, Wednesday, 12 noon Eastern time, Aunt Kathy's show, helped produced by Apostate Ashley, we'll have her live stream show with Shane Billowitz as her guest on Vintage Explorer. So tune in this week. Got a lot coming up.
Absolutely. Yep. And that's at noon o'clock on Wednesdays, like Jenna said. So for all you afternooners, now you have an afternoon show here on Tang. And as far as the stream for Esther and her family, first of all, we love Esther and the light she's shining on what's happening as far as the version of Christianity in Africa and the when Christopher Hitchens said religion poisons everything, that specific flavor or whatever you want to call it of Christianity has become so toxic and so not even, and coming from an atheist, so not according to anything that's in that book. Like it's not even fucking close, right? So, we appreciate what she does because she does a lot of the dirty work, and and digging up, some of the nonsense that's going on there. So, here it's Tang Gang, man. It's Tang Gang, and
that's what we do.
We love to help and love and promote, and any way we can do that, we want to step up. So, Esther, we love you, and we got your back. We got your back.
Love you, girl.
But Jenna, we got a pretty awesome guest tonight.
Yeah. Yes. No, genuinely, I'm excited. If y'all remember months ago, I can't even remember how long, we reviewed this coming out video that our guest had, and that got me in my feels. I know where I was then and I know where I am now, and so we got a lot to discuss, catching up, all that good stuff. So I'm excited for tonight. I am.
Absolutely. So without further ado, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, welcome Brady Goodwin, aka Phanatik. What's going on, my man?
What's going on? What's going on? Good to be with you guys.
Absolutely. Thanks for jumping on, man. And we've been looking forward to this, and I pass this around even on my personal social medias because obviously I still either have connections with or whatever social media with some of the guys that I used to rap with and chill with and do all that, and even if it's just to well, I want to get to that because you say it in your video, and so I'm gonna wait. But
okay.
Brady, again, thanks for. I'm already wanting to jump ahead, but thanks for jumping on. And before we get started, please tell our viewers, our audience, about you, and then where they can find you, and tell them a little bit about this book that just dropped, and then we'll get into the conversation.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. So yeah, born and raised in Philadelphia, baby of the '80s. Grew up in that time frame, and like every teen back in those days, you grew up going to church on Sundays and then wilding out the rest of the week in the streets of Philadelphia. But around age 16 or so, the Bible's presentation of God, it won me over. And from about 16 to age 40, I gave my life to Christ and was an advocate. We used to say we were advocates of the theocratic rule. So we were going around the city, the state, the country, the world, sticking flagpoles in the ground for Jesus Christ as Christian rappers. And we would get the looks from people in the streets like, wait, y'all Christian? And we get looks from people in the church like, wait, y'all hip hop? Like, yeah, it was a marriage of the two. And I spent about a good 30 years of my life just as a representative of the Christian faith and a student of the Christian faith and a defender of the Christian faith. And then about maybe 6 years ago, started asking some very tough questions of my faith and started asking questions of the answers that were coming. And that was pretty much the undoing of my faith. And that started the journey, a very emotional process to come to the point where I said, I really can't. This is my identity. This is my life. But I really can't. I can't believe this anymore. I can't defend this anymore. I can't commend it to others anymore. And the world changed at that point. And so I wrote this book, Let There Be Gaslight, that basically was me trying to bring my Christian community up to speed on, like, hey, there's a conversation going on about what it is we believe, and can we believe it, and how can we believe it if we still do. And I didn't think a lot of what was happening in that conversation was people have they don't like when I say this, but I didn't think a lot of the people in the conversation were being honest. And some even said, like, I know this is an intellectually dishonest position, but in order to hold my faith, I kind of have to do this. Wow. And so I wanted to bring my Christian community up to speed on, hey, here's where the conversation has gotten to, has evolved to, and here's why I'm dipping. You know what I mean? If you ever watch Shark Tank, where somebody's presenting their product, and the shark is like, well, you did this, and for these reasons, I'm out. This book was for these reasons, I'm out. Yeah.
Absolutely. And thank you, Jena. Jena put the link for Phanatik's newest book that just dropped here recently, Let There Be, Gaslight. And I have, see, this is my ADHD brain, like normal shows, like all the little stuff I have lined up, and now I over prepared for the content, so I didn't have this pulled up like I normally would have. But so I had started, so on my phone, I just unplugged my phone too. So I just started reading it. It was about 2 days ago, and because I didn't even realize I've been trying to follow it. I didn't even see that, or I hadn't saw digitally that it dropped because I'd went to Barnes and Noble's like 2 or 3 times, like trying to buy it, and I couldn't find
old school.
and then I saw via your Twitter that I could get on Amazon. I was like, well, damn it! So I got the digital version that I started reading it. But yeah, so everybody go, support Brady. And I think once we go through this, you'll have an even deeper appreciation for the process, for the journey. Yeah. And I don't say this just because he's our guest, or this is, which I'm gonna get to here in a second, someone that I looked up to when I was a Christian. But it's unique to me, like there's 4 or 5 different fronts that it's unique to. And we'll touch a few of those tonight. But before we get into that, we're gonna have a little fun here, Brady. So from the time I was about 12 years old up until 2002, so about 22, I was 22, 23, something like that, and I was just ripping and running, selling dope, doing dope, partying, like all doing all the shit, right? And in 2000, I believe it was September 2002, if I remember correctly, I was in a car accident, drunk driving accident. I was on like a 2-week cocaine bender, and really the only thing that I had consumed was cocaine and alcohol. And I got in this accident, and I coded twice. They had to resuscitate me 2 different times. And my family and circle of friends, all being believers, of course, they come in. It's the only reason you're still here is because God has a plan, and He spared your life because there's this, ultimate plan for you. Well, being 22 or whatever at the time and scared to death, you talk about a dramatic event, I was like, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord, praise him. And I jumped all the way in. Well, all that's fine and dandy. Growing up, my mom was a praise and worship pastor. And she wrote and released 2 of her own like Christian contemporary worship albums. I could not stand worship music. I couldn't stand church music because that's all I ever heard, right? And I wasn't a big rock music fan. I've always just been a hip hop guy. I loved hip hop, and I was struggling trying to find something that I could listen to and enjoy it, because anything that I had heard up until this point that I'm going to talk about and share it, and I'm not trying to throw shade or hate, but it was garbage, man. It was garbage. It was like, are these guys writing these beats with like Fisher Price toys? Like, what are we? what are we doing right now? And so my little brother, shortly after the wreck, he was like, I don't know if you'll like these guys, but it's the best. It's the best I've heard so far. And and I still remember today, his exact words were, I think these guys are off the hook. And I was like, bro, I ain't heard one single Christian hip hop artist that's been off the hook yet.
The lies you tell.
Try me. So I'm getting ready to play. It's just going to be Brady's verse on the song. I'm getting ready to play it.
I'm trying to imagine what song this could be. I have no idea what song this is about to be.
And I remember we were in my brother's. He had a Chevy S10 pickup truck. I remember we were sitting in the truck, and he hit play, and I heard the beat, and I was like, "Hold on, this is a Christian beat." He was like, "Yeah." I was like, "All right, I'm listening." And then by the end of the song, I was like, "And they can actually spit. These dudes can actually rap. This is crazy." And after that, that's when I anything that was out at that point. I think you guys had two or three albums out at that point. I bought those. Then that's when I got turned on to the truth and all that. But here we're gonna pull it up. So, and like I said, we're gonna play the whole song. We're just gonna play Brady's verse here. Give me uno momento. What you know about this? What?
Okay. I'll be the first to say, because when I was a believer, Christian hip hop was like, what the hell is that? No, that's not. No, I was raised Baptist Christian, and I was just straight classic, what's meant to be gospel. Gospel was it. Nothing rock Christian, nothing hip hop, trap Christian is like the new thing nowadays. And I'm like, what are you? Come on, that's not real. Stop. So that was fire. I like it.
Yo, that beat's still fire. That beat is.
I could not have guessed that was the one you were going to play. I couldn't even remember that song. Wow. Yeah, that was one of our top hits. Yeah.
Yeah, I like I said, I remember like everything vivid. Like I was even describing my brother's truck, and I remember what I was like. This is Christian hip hop.
Yeah.
So that was my introduction to Brady and cross movement, which will you'll hear that come up throughout the conversation. But one of the things before we jump into the video, I'll say is my favorite hip hop. It's a group, but the compilement of Wu-Tang Clan, like that's my favorite shit in the world. The other reason that I connected is once I found out it wasn't just a dude, but there was like it was a like a Wu-Tang Clan, only like the Christian version.
A conglomerate, right? Yeah.
I was like, oh, I love these guys even more. and having that love and passion in music, and there at that time not being a lot of, in my opinion, I'm not speaking for Brady or anyone else. In my opinion, there wasn't a lot of quality Christian hip hop at that time, and that motivated me to start Battleground, which was a conglomerate or a group of guys that we got together. And I remember we started out just in my dining room. that I'd cleared out the dining room table, and we set up a little recording booth in there, and we started there. And then next thing you know, we opened up for Truth. Was it? It wasn't Lecrae. We opened up for Lecrae, and there's other ones I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But it was that motivation, that inspiration for that. And then not only that, and then we'll dig in the video when I say this. Brady, it was never my pastor or my youth pastor, even my mom, as much as she tried to teach my brother and I how to pray and study the Bible and research the Bible. It wasn't until I heard cross movement and then like the 116 click, other ones like that, that I started hearing words like atonement and propitiation and eisegesis and exegesis, and I'm like, what are these guys talking about? It made me have to go research, right? And it made me have to go seek answers, and start asking questions, which is I wanted to say that to segue into it, but babe, did you?
Yes.
Go. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you had a question. Yeah.
No. Oh, I thought you meant the video.
Yeah, no, we're good. We can go. That was the segue I wanted. So, and Brady, I want to make sure we're accurate here. When exactly did you release this video?
This video was January 17th, I believe.
Of this year?
Of 2022, yes.
Wow. Okay. All right.
So this is, for those who remember, Jen and I reviewed this video and then an article about another Christian hip hop artist, and we went through this, and this was a big deal for me and a few others that were familiar with Christian hip hop and cross movement and Phanatik. And I remember the first time I listened to it, I was like, this is fucking crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy. And I appreciate I appreciate the way you came at this, Brady. I do, because your care for people still showed through, shined through in this entire 20 something minutes.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
All right. Do you let me know when to stop it? Okay.
Yes, go. Thank you.
Me to do was it taught me to ask better, more penetrating questions, and the aim was they were teaching me how to do apologetics. I have been doing apologetics for 25 years on the streets, dealing with Hebrew Israelites and 5%ers and right knowledge, Malachi York, and all that. I've been doing urban apologetics on the streets for 25 years. As I began to teach more in secular academia, I knew that my faith was going to run into more academic questions. And so to prepare for those more academic questions, I went to a place that existed to train people to do that. Westminster Theological Seminary started back in the 1920s, and the aim of Westminster was to defend the Christian faith against atheism and liberalism. And so I knew that would be a great training for where I was headed in secular academia. But as I was there, like I said, they train you in how to presuppositionally look at a worldview and to kind of go from the ground level to deconstruct it. And while I was there, I was forced to not just look at somebody else's faith and say, if you remove this jingo piece from the tower of your faith, what happens to it? Well, I turned that lens around. And so, well, what happens if someone were to use this this theological judo on me? If you remove this jingo piece from the construction of my worldview, what happens to it? I began to ask those more penetrating questions, and I began to second guess the answers that I was getting and the answers that I would give someone else if they asked me that same question. And I remember, you know, was looking at my classmates. Many of my classmates were training to be pastors. And I was not. I was training to go into secular academia. And so I think I had a much more skeptical clientele in mind, which caused me to be much more skeptical in my classes. I'm in the class and I'm thinking to myself, okay, you want me to give that response to my unbelieving coworkers? So I don't think that's going to be good enough. And of course, we rationalize why it's not going to be good enough. You know, it's the natural mind at enmity with the things of the spirit. Of course, they're not going to receive it. But I'm like, I don't know if it's just that. I don't know if it's just the carnal mind being at enmity with the spirit. Like that response that you want me to give this non-believer, I don't know if it'd be good enough for them. And I'm starting to wonder, why is it good enough for me? Like,
you can stop there, Ben.
Is it really just my?
All right, so that to me that's a pivot, right?
Yeah.
That in and of itself is a pivot. And then not too long after that, Brady shares that after leaving Bible college, that his views had changed from inerrancy to infallibility. And you correct me if your experience is different, Brady, because everybody's, you know, obviously their journeys are different. But what I've at least heard and experienced or learned from those that have went through the education process in theology and everything is when there's those little pivots that start to happen, that's when cracks start to happen, whether you realize it or not. Whether you realize it or not, because we're still clinging to it, right? And we'll get to it because you talk about this more here in a minute. We're still clinging to it, but what was your thinking process when you thought, well, it's not inerrant anymore, it's just infallible?
Yeah.
What was your thinking process there?
So I think, and it's funny because I have a good friend who has a very similar journey in his faith. I started out in a Pentecostal church. So Pentecostal church, it was non-denominational by name, but in practice, it was very Pentecostal. People are speaking in tongues, and, you know, there's a prophet who will prophesy and give a word of knowledge. These are all the things that happen in charismatic, you know, churches that believe that the spiritual gifts you see in the New Testament are functioning today. So I was raised in that kind of a church. When I did become a Christian, I became that kind of a Christian, charismatic. But I wasn't the type of unbeliever before I became a Christian. I wasn't the kind of unbeliever who would see that charismatic stuff going on and make jokes about it or disbelieve it. I just was like, I don't get it. I don't understand the languages that they're, you know, speaking in tongues. But hey, maybe when I become what they are, I'll get it. And then when I became what they were, you know, I became a Christian, I tried to do it. Like, I remember like trying to prophesy. I remember like speaking in tongues in the gathering, and then people would interpret what I knew to be gibberish.
Yeah.
Like, I knew I was choosing the syllables that was coming out of my mouth, and I wasn't trying to deceive anyone. I just didn't know. I didn't know how to do what they were doing. So I said, okay, maybe if I just do the things, I make the noises, maybe what I'm praying in my head is what I'm praying in tongues. Maybe God's just working it out and interpreting. Then other people would interpret my tongues like, oh, maybe I really did speak in tongues. But some part of me knew, but I feel like I'm just choosing these syllables. I'm just trying to get there. But and the question in the back of my mind was, how come they can't tell that I'm just doing this?
Yeah.
It's not a spirit. Yeah, go ahead.
Almost essentially you're going through the motions, almost a situation like the whole saying, you fake it until you make it. type of
Yeah.
situation.
I had an
And
aunt.
you know,
What was
right.
I had an aunt who taught my sister how to speak in tongues, and it was basically that.
Wow. Okay. Okay. And from that, and never in those moments where you were speaking in tongue and realizing in your head, like, this is me creating these syllables, but to those who can hear you, they translate that as actual words in English, so to speak, that you're saying, but never it was a movement or a feeling at any point that this was God, speaking through you, through these syllables of speaking in tongue, nothing like
Not that I
that.
can remember, but I knew that I was sincere, and I trusted
Mm.
that whatever was happening, God was able to make it the spiritual thing it was supposed to be. But I only did that for about a month or two when I just realized, I'm like, yo, I remember I was I had started doing Christian rap by this time, and we did a show at Jena University in Pennsylvania. And the woman who was over the event, she called all the ministers, everybody who rapped and who danced and who sung, to come up to minister to the crowd at the end. So she wanted all of us to pray for people and speak over people's lives. And I'm like, I don't know what any of this is other than what I've seen growing up. And so let me just do what and I remember I tried this. This is so embarrassing now. I tried to speak a word of prophecy over this woman that was in front of me, this white college student, very few white students at Jena University. But I tried to speak a word of prophecy over her. And I'm just doing what I've seen people do, like just something very generic. I tried to, shoot with a generic enough, that it could hit anybody, basically. And I remember I kind of squinted my eye open to see was I on point. And it's so funny because I had a woman do this to me earlier this year when I visited a church. But just to kind of see if I was like anywhere close. And I can remember the look on her face was like, who is this guy talking about? This is not me. And so I vowed that day, I'm never doing that again. I'm not going to be fake. I'm not going to, if God wants me to do those things, he'll do it through me without me having to.
Absolutely.
I said all that to answer your question about Bible college. This was in the early 90s. No, I'm sorry. This was in the mid 90s. But I remember saying, okay, so all the stuff that I saw growing up when I wasn't a Christian, and all the things that I tried to do when I became a Christian, that may not necessarily be real, but people believe it is. So it did two things. It humbled me. So it made me less dogmatic to say this is definitely something spiritual. But it also made me more gray area-ish. I'm not going to be black and white. I'm going to kind of be in the gray area because there may be more to this thing than we're able to explain. Maybe some of our explanations are. So I've always, since a young age, as a Christian, thought I'm going to hold some of this stuff loosely until God makes it absolutely plain what it is.
Interesting.
And then I kind of adopted a more, maybe some people will say a more cerebral faith, but I'm going to study my Bible to know what can I really say and not feel like in a year or two I'm going to have to say, oops, maybe that wasn't it. Because that speaking in tongues thing, that was an oops. The prophecy thing, that was an oops.
Yeah.
So let me just stick with the gospel. There's no oops there. Let me just stick with, and at that time it was a literal interpretation of, Genesis 1, 2, and 3, and, the fall of man. And there's not going to be an oops there. Jesus Christ and the Gospels and Paul's doctrine, there's not going to be an oops there. And I ran hard with that because that was the one thing I wouldn't have to be gray area-ish about. I can be black and white with that. So then all that gets me to your question of what happens in Bible college, right? I did Bible college from 2003 to 2009, then seminary 2011 to 2015. When I realized, oh, shoot, it's not inerrant. We kind of have to downgrade that to just infallibility. I'd already been prepared by that oops moment in the past that made me say, you got too much in that tight grip, too much stuff that you're holding to as black and white. Maybe some of the stuff that you thought was black and white, maybe that's gray area-ish too, but it still wasn't the gospel. Still wasn't the fall. Still wasn't any of that. It was more stuff like, you know, I don't even know what I put in that category other than the doctrine of inerrancy. Like that was just one of the things that I just was like, okay, maybe it's not that black and white.
Right.
So those kind of experiences kind of prepared me for just a more gray area-ish Christianity. Then my experiences in seminary made me say, wait, so you mean it's all gray? Damn, that's a problem.
Yeah. And for those viewing now, but even those in the future that maybe just like the first time I heard Brady and some of his cohorts on their albums using words like inerrancy or infallibility or exegesis and eisegesis and all that. I wanted to pull up a couple definitions. That way we're clear, because I want this to be informative, and hopefully people take things away from this conversation. So inerrancy, and I'm just looking at dictionary definitions. So all of you Philosophy folks in the chat, just hit the pause button. We're good. But inerrancy, lack of error. The second definition, the belief that the Bible is free from error in matters of science as well as those of faith. And then the dictionary definition for infallibility, the quality of being infallible or the inability to be wrong. Brady, this is your I'll quote the homeboy, Dr. Joshua Bowen. This is not my area of expertise. This would be your area of expertise.
Right.
So for me, I'm going to play the layperson. Those two definitions sound very similar to me.
Right.
What's the difference?
Right. Yeah. So typically infallibility is, to put it in all the way down to layman's terms, it's not about the Bible having error or not having error. It's about whether or not the Bible is going to steer you wrong in matters of faith or practice. So it's not going to steer you wrong in terms of what you should believe, faith, or what you should be doing, practice. It may have some errors scientifically. It may have some errors about how many people were in this battle. It says 300 in this verse. It says 350 in this verse. There may be some errors, but none of those errors, if there are errors, are going to steer you wrong in matters of what you should believe about God and what you should do in your life, faith and practice. That's infallibility.
That was a great breakdown. That was a great breakdown. And I want to pause. And is this, do I know that name?
Yeah, Cruz Cadero. I don't know if you know him. That's he's one of the guys from Cross Movement.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's it. What's up, man? Thanks for joining the chat. As soon as I saw the name pop, I was like, hold on, I know that name. And when I haven't actually properly greeted anybody in the chat, but everybody in the chat, thanks for showing up. You guys have showed up strong tonight, so appreciate everybody hanging out. And thanks again, Brady, for chilling with us. And babe, if you want to hit that next timestamp, I think that was a great.
No, absolutely. Let me pull it up here really quick. Okay, here we go.
Have you ever re-engaged in the scriptures since seminary? You said you needed to see God in his world, not just in his word. I was like, nah, you know what? Not in any real way. Not aside from my little small devotionals here and there, but not like really diving back in, because I was afraid of what I would find if I dove back into the scriptures. I might find something else that would. I literally told God, like, if I find one more thing in the scriptures that doesn't have a good explanation without resorting to some kind of having to bend over backwards and hop over barrels to explain it, I said, I might lose my faith. But when my man challenged me, I said, nah, you know what? I never have. Matter of fact, tomorrow I'm going to dive back in. And the next day I did. I woke up and I dove headfirst into the scriptures. And it was weird because I'm reading it and all these issues are jumping out of me, issues I never saw before. I'm like, yo, who put that in the Bible? Like, where'd that come from? No, that's been there. Why am I just now seeing this issue? I don't know what I had been doing in the past, like I've never seen this issue. I've never seen that problem. And it was just jumping out at me. I said, what's going on? Next day I went back, dove back in, and even more issues. I said, oh wait, I had actually blocked and blacked out the issues that I had been struggling with for all those years.
All right, we can stop there.
Forgotten what they were, but now that I'm
so the if you go to the Brady's the original stream or video on this, it digs into more of the process there and breaking down the process of looking to the text, so to speak, or the issues, and it doesn't get into the granule or anything like that, but I remember being in that same place, Brady. So it's all right, God, I'm still talking to and with God, right? And to give a little bit of backstory, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I watched this another 10 times today just to make sure I had this shit memorized. But it was 4 or 5 years that I believe your statement or your comment was, I want to see or hear or experience the God of this world, not the God of this book. And how does this God demonstrate himself in this world and not just within this text? And that was one of the most powerful things that I've ever heard, because I would have never articulated that way. I would have never said it that way. But I remember when I got to that point where it's I already know what this book says about you.
Yes.
But how do the claims of this book and all of these people that are preaching this message and talking about this God, where is this God in our day-to-day lives? Culturally, economically, whatever we want to talk about, how does that apply? And what you said about the talking to God, if I dig back into this, I'm gonna take my homeboy's challenge, right? And if I dig back into this, and there's more of whether we want to call them discrepancies or issues or problems, whatever it is, and I don't have to go through all the, or I'm sorry, if I do have to go through all the mental gymnastics and flipping and jumping through hoops and all of that, I can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
So my question, I wanted to make sure I made the proper foundation for the question. The question to that would be, what was the final breaking point for Brady? What was it in that process when you dug back in and you're like, okay, I'm going to take this challenge. I'm going to dig back in. What was the final Mike Tyson knockout punch?
Man, that's a great question. So I remember, what did it for me was, it was a delayed effect, really, because the punch actually came in seminary, and I didn't fall from it for about 7 years, 6-7 years. The punch was simply, there's a guy by the name of Peter Enns who wrote a book called, I can't think of the name of it. I talked about it in Let There Be Gaslight. But basically, he had accepted the evidence for evolution. And then, but because he wanted to still cling to his faith, he basically said, okay, so then Paul was wrong about Adam being this gateway of sin and death into the world. So in other words, Paul took Genesis literally. He shouldn't have. But Paul was a man of his time. And he thought by doing that, he was saving Christianity from anything that science would have to say about the Bible's origins. Like he just Paul was wrong. But we still need a savior because look how sinful we are. Can't you see we're sinful? Right, so we still need a savior. But me as an evangelist for 30 years, I'm like, no, that's not how the story goes. Like, if Paul is wrong about Adam, this whole thing falls apart. Like, what are you talking about? So I remember I wrote a paper basically tearing him to shreds. Like, no, you can't do that. First of all, I don't think evolution is true. Second of all, if it is true, it does away with Paul's argument. And then just something clicked in my mind, like, but what if it is true? Like, what if evolution is true? You just said it destroys the gospel if that's true, because there's no first man, there's no sin entering the world. There's no. I said, okay. I said, if it's true, but it's not, right? But the guy who wrote this book, Peter Enns, he had been a Westminster professor for about 15 years. So I'm like, you don't teach at Westminster. This is the Princeton of theology.
Right.
It started out of Princeton. The dude, William Machen, J.G. Machen, he left Princeton to start Westminster because Princeton was becoming too liberal. But it had the same academic rigor as Princeton. You don't teach at Westminster for 15 years and not know your stuff. So I'm like, well, what's making Peter Enns bow to science this way? And then something just said, maybe there's something there. And I felt my soul crumble. Like, so if it is, that means this thing is wrong. Like, we've been wrong. And I ran from that. I ran from it. Yep, the evolution of Adam. That's what it is. I ran from it for the next 5 years. I said, it can't be. The Bible can't be wrong. Because either if the Bible's wrong, then God lied, or God allowed me to go around the world saying something that's not true. Either way, I don't want to deal with it. I'm not going to deal with that kind of a God. Like, if that God exists, like, if you can lie, why should I trust you? If you would allow me to go around the world and almost die, like several times I put my life in danger for this message that this is another one of those oops moments, like, oh, it wasn't really true. I'm like, I'm not rocking with you. But I didn't think the evolution was true. I didn't think Peter Enns had a case. And so I was, in my mind, I was cool for a while. But the foundation started to crumble at that point. And I just, for the next 5 years, said, I'm not going to think about it.
Yep. And we actually have the timestamp on that, but go ahead, babe. I think you had something to say.
No, because I can't recall if it was in this clip where you had, the first clip that we mentioned earlier on in your video, you had referenced that there was a lot of social issues that you were no longer with your Christian, that no longer suited you as far as you previously being your Christian walk, that many Christians looked at as, wrong, but you had changed your mind on. What exactly were those things?
So one was had to do with homosexuals and just the whole LGBT movement. Like, I'd had a few experiences with my students at community college. I had one student who was transgender who had transitioned right before the semester. And the student had asked, the student transitioned, I probably shouldn't say the student's name, so I won't. But they had asked us to call them by their new name. And as a Christian, I'm like, but that goes against my morals. And so I tried everything I could to not call the student the gender that they wanted to be called. But it was so funny because I teach classes on dealing with hip hop as culture. And so I'm breaking down culture and tying hip hop into the Black experience and all that. The class really just uses hip hop as a case study for culture.
Yeah. This
student who had transitioned was taking all the principles of culture that I was using and applying them to the transgender culture. And it was beautiful the way the student was doing it. Next thing I know, me and the student were walking out of, classes over, we're walking out of the building together, and the student just is explaining to me just their life. I'm not asking questions, I'm not prying, I'm just hearing from this student. And I'm just like, yeah, you know what? Because those cracks in the foundation of my faith had already happened,
right?
I'd already begun to say, so am I going to stand here and judge this student based off of a 4,000-year-old document that I'm not even sure how I need to take it? Like, I still believe it, but I don't know how literally to take it anymore.
Right.
I'm going to use that to judge this student. And so when it came to things like, there was a big fight about gay marriage,
Yeah.
There were issues about, trying to think, what else were they? It's political issues, Black Lives Matter, became a issue, and it was splitting the church. And I'm like, wait, I'm not going to ride with y'all just because. Like,
Right.
there's some issues that, still believing in God at the time, I think you're throwing out the heart of God to ride on certain issues, and I'm not willing to do that either. So yeah, there were several issues, and then of course when that whole issue came up, I'm just like, wait, you mean to tell me that's the camp I got to ride with? And so I was already splitting with people on some
Right.
social issues, and many Black Christians, even though I had one toe out the door, not a foot yet. Theologically, at least with the Black Christians, we were still rocking tough on the social issues. But
Sure.
it was dividing the church at the time. So
Yeah. I'll take it a little deeper just to follow up with that, because I know for me, similar to you, LGBTQ narrative within the Christian Bible, the rights. I originally never had an issue. I had gay friends. And so that, as far as going into, the political aspect of gay marriage and everything, I had no qualms with it. Even though I was a believer, it was something that was just like, well, it was almost like for me a cherry picking situation. I'll just pluck the good parts, and this other part where I think gay people should go to hell because they lie with the same sex, that's BS. I don't trust that shit. And that was then, and this is now, obviously. I thought for me the Bible should grow with me as time grows, but obviously, that's God's unchanging hand, as they say. But another deeper issue, that's one that's classic with us African Americans, is slavery. There's a lot of apologetics surrounding that, whether the Bible is more condoning indentured servitude versus actual slavery, like how we experience here in the U.S. over 200 years ago. Where was your struggle with that, if you had one?
I didn't have a struggle with that as a believer, because I always understood, well, not always understood, I was always willing to accept that the slavery in the Bible was not the slavery of America. It wasn't race-based. It wasn't. But then I don't know how I had missed it. You come across the passages in Deuteronomy, and you're like, wait, this is race-based. I'm like, they didn't have race as we know it, but it was ethnically based. Like, you cannot harshly treat your fellow Hebrews as slaves, but everybody else. So it does have a ethnic basis to it.
Yes,
and
it does.
It is lifelong. It is perpetual. It is chattel. Like, you own these people in perpetuity. You grant them to your children. So I saw that, and I think what I did was I just kind of partitioned it off as Old Testament ethics. Like, thank God for Jesus, and so I was able to just under the auspices of that was then, this is now. I didn't fault God for it, because he wasn't still doing it. He wasn't still sanctioning it. And when America did it, that wasn't what God was doing in the Old Testament. It's something new now. That was the way I dealt with it then.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you got some books in your hand, don't you, Oz?
I do, but I have to ask, because I've actually do a few times. Well, I do street epistemology as much as I can, like in real life. But I've also done just like what do you want to call them, like the Jay Leno type, like street interviews, where I'll just walk up to random people and ask questions, and oftentimes this conversation comes up when religion comes up. So versus how you parceled out or didn't, then as a believer, where you stand today, what is your view on how the Bible, in my opinion, justifies the ownership of a human being, and that Yahweh is and was still, even in the New Testament, responsible for endorsing it and never rejecting it?
And I'll say additive, not just justify it, it supports it. Condoning and supporting it, two different words. They're not synonymous. So there you go.
Yeah. So I've gotten past the point of, I don't think I ever, to be honest, got to the point where I was mad at God for endorsing or mad at it. This is weird to even think about this. Like my Christianity had painted such a loving picture of God for me that I think somewhere inside it just was, okay, then if this is what God in the Old Testament was doing, that's not the God that I knew. But now that I'm able to look back at these things, I still don't fault Yahweh or God with any of this. I see the entire Old Testament as like these are the musings of ancient men.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So I wouldn't waste any energy being mad at a God for doing any of that. To me, it's very clearly only a man would want this. Only a man would do these things.
Yes.
And so I can't be mad at a God for that. I look at the men and say, well, this is what you get.
No, and we, I'll speak for myself. I never want to speak for anyone else. I agree. It's lunacy. It's lunacy. Especially Exodus 21, where and God, see, Dr. Joshua Bowen's not here, so I'm stepping out. I'm stepping out of my lane right now. But him and I have talked about this, ad nauseum. So it is something that we talk about often. If anybody ever wants to learn, he has a book. Dr. Joshua Bowen, did the Old Testament endorse slavery? Go buy the book. Go buy the book, and the answer is yes.
Yeah.
You're wondering, the answer is yes. So you can go get that on Amazon. But we go down a whole other rabbit hole with that, because that is a it's an interesting conversation, because we as far as TANG is concerned, we agree it's not a matter of being mad at the God, because we don't even believe that God exists. It's the apologetics.
Say that again for me, please. I just need that. I'm sorry.
Part?
The part where it's not that we're mad at God, we just don't believe that it exists.
Yeah, we're not mad at him because we don't believe he exists, but it's what people attribute to this God, and then want to leave out the disgusting shit, like owning humans as property, right? And because I could start atheist preaching right now, and I'm not. I'm going to stop. Because that's not what this is about. So, to take it back to the mental gymnastics, Brady, that's one thing that one of the things I didn't even know that we shared this. I didn't know you did like street ministry, or or a street preacher, things like that, until I really started digging into what it was you did outside of hip hop. And bro, it's like there comes a point you have to be an Olympic level gymnastic master to be able to get around and justify a lot of the things that are coming out of our mouths.
Yeah.
Right? And I kind of asked this before, so it might sound redundant, but I'm specifically talking about the gymnastics and the workarounds. And then I'm going to pause because another train's coming, because I live downtown. What was your, like, what was game over, mic drop, as far as like, I'm not doing the gymnastics anymore? Was there a time conversation that you had that was like, I'm done doing the back bends and all that?
Yeah, there were several of those, and this is what seminary was good for. Seminary kind of just helped turn the light on. Okay, if you're really going to defend this, these are all the things you're going to have to defend. And I just kind of remember like saying over and over again, like, I didn't sign up for this. Like, I thought I was doing a great job as an apologist on the streets of Philadelphia when I was just dealing with 5%ers and Hebrew Israelites, and not to belittle them or their academic, stature. But once you start getting into defending this book and the ideas in this book, and I just remember saying, like, it's so funny. Today I posted a picture on Facebook of I'm cleaning out a closet of all my nephew's toys. My nephew just turned 13, and I just got closets full of toys he doesn't play with anymore. And I'm throwing all of them out. In the closet is a bag full of all of my, I'm trying to think if I have any around here. I probably should go dig it out the trash because it means something. I have a bag full of these 3x5 card binders full of my Greek translation, my Greek words, and you got to memorize all the Greek vocabulary so that you can read the Bible. So when I was in seminary, I just remember like having to translate all these words and memorize all these Greek words, and bags full of just Greek words I had to memorize so that I could read the Bible in Greek. But I just remember sitting there several times saying, if an all-wise, all-powerful God wanted to reveal himself to human beings, it doesn't seem like it should take all this. It doesn't seem like it should. This seems very much us. This seems very manufactured. And then add on top of that, when you start getting into textual criticism and, well, here are the problems if you take the verse this way. Well, the reason why this Bible takes, and if you study your a lot of study Bibles have footnotes that'll tell you this could be taken this way or this way. We take it this way because it keeps us from running into problems with this other verse. And I just remember saying, like, wait, I've been jumping out the window on a lot of different things, like, yo, this is how it is. And I'm like, what I really should be saying is, yo, this is how it could be. You can take it like this, or you can take it like that. I'm like, how do you preach that? Yeah. And I thought about my non-believing friends and relatives. And it was because I cared for them. It's because I loved them. And I was like, I can't do this to them. I can't go to them saying things confidently when in my heart, I'm like, but in another couple of years, I'm probably going to be saying something different to them because we're going to realize that, we shouldn't have taken it that way, or it's better translated this way. So I can't really give you one moment. I just know there was a slew of things that just made me say, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up to be, I use the analogy all the time, but it feels like being the PR person for Trump or Biden or Kanye. Like, you're always going to have to be making an excuse for something that your boss said that you're like, he did what? Okay, here's what he really meant. Okay, here's how, I'm like, I didn't sign up for this.
Right.
So anyway,
It's heavy.
No need to apologize. And all us is we get two more timestamps on the video to go through. So I'll ask this quickly because this is an analogy that I've used, and for those that are sports fans, especially basketball fans who understand what I'm saying in this analogy. But one of the problems that I had as I walked away, deconstructed, deconverted, was if the claim of the book is true and accurate, that this God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. It's never changing, never moving. We've now, if we're in a basketball game, you've picked up the dribble. You don't get to move. You don't get to change. And for those that are reading the book and they're now abiding by the book and they're living according to the book, you now have to pick up your dribble. The only thing that you can do is pivot. You don't get to call a timeout. You don't get to pass the basketball. You don't get to throw up a shot. You have to hold on that pivot foot and be unchanging and unmoving, because that's the God you serve, right?
Great analogy.
What's problematic about that is things change, people change, times change, cultures change.
Yep.
Everything around us changes. And what's the old saying? Change is inevitable. Growth is optional. You either stay stagnant, and you can stay caught up exactly where you're at and not change and not get better, not improve, or you can hold that pivot foot down as long as you want, right? Yeah. So the reason I bring that up is using that analogy. Brady, can you see yourself in that analogy where it's like, no, I'm not okay with just the pivot. I'm not, because I see I see all of these other areas, whether it's culturally or, whether it's the people around me, or even my own personal experience, where I could grow and I could become better. I could do this, that you were no longer, you were no longer okay with accepting just the pivot foot.
Yeah, well, throw science in there. Like, science is one of the biggest areas that challenges faith. You got to pick that foot up. You can't stay there. And it's always been sort of peripheral issues. Oh, you mean it's the earth moving and not the sun? Okay, well, we can find ways to make the verses that messes up. We can just make those phenomenological. We can do different things to get around that. When science challenges things that are peripheral to the faith, yet still in the Bible, Christians they work the pivot well, and they pivot so much that maybe the ref doesn't even recognize your foot just moved. You used to say that the sun went around the earth. Now you're saying something different. But we were so sly about how we moved the foot, they didn't call the walk. You know what I mean? So to keep the analogy going, like, the church has moved on a few different issues that if you go back and peep, you're like, yo, we should have called it. Y'all got away with a call right there. Y'all really did move your pivot. But when it comes to the current issue, and this is what got me, when I began to see Christians trying to find ways to, I hope people are following the basketball analogy because I think it's perfect. Okay, wait, we can't believe in a literal Adam. It's one thing to say we can't believe in a literal 6-day creation. That was the old issue. But now the science is so compelling, for not only can we not believe in a couple at the beginning of human history, we have to now admit that human beings share a common ancestor with the great apes. Once you get there, I don't care how slick you are, you move that foot, somebody's going to blow the whistle. And when I begin to start seeing apologists, theologians, pastors trying to find funny ways to move, I'm like, wait a minute, I see what's going on here. And you want me to do that dance? Nah, you're not going to have me out here looking stupid. I'm not playing that game. Like, there's a lot of games I would play for God. I'm not doing that. If God couldn't get that one right, miss me, I'm gone. He can catch me some other way if he exists at all. But I'm not going to stand here and do that.
Absolutely.
Like, that's what did it for me.
No, and I appreciate that answer. I'll say this, and we'll go into the next timestamp there, maybe if you want to get it ready. But the way I see the dare I say evolution of the pivot in Christian apologetics would be that of when MJ was playing, and MJ got away with anything he wanted to, right? And now all of a sudden we have those like James Harden, where he can take 6 steps and never gets called, and it's the same thing because he found out really slippery ways to get around the traveling rule. But guess what? Y'all are traveling. Y'all are some traveling.
But no, see, here's the thing. It's not everyone. You do have those Christians who they will not move. They will be a statue with the Bible. If the Bible says this, answers in Genesis type folk. Like, if the Bible says this is what it means. And so I'm sitting here like, okay, so am I going to go that route? Or am I going to go this taking 6 steps route? I hope you don't call the walk. Like, and once again, all it did was it just made me say, this, I cannot call this God. This seems like exactly what you would get if ancient men, unaided from above, were to tell a story and try to keep it going. It seems like this is exactly what you would get. And I'm okay with calling it that. And I'm also okay with saying, I don't need that.
No, absolutely not. And yeah, let's hit the timestamp. We're gonna keep rapping about this. So let's get it. Let's get it.
Felt dishonest, and I said, I can't do that. I won't do that. I know people who they sign statements of faith so that they can still teach at Christian universities, but they believe very different, and they would hardly tell their students what they're really thinking. And I just said, I can't do that. I'm not the most integral guy in the world. but I can't do that. My conscience wouldn't allow me. And so I said, you know what, I can't teach there anymore. I can't do this anymore. And I just went and I researched, and I got to a point where I said, you know what, I think I get it now. I think I understand. When I hold the Bible in my hands, I think I understand what I'm holding now. I think I understand it now better than I ever have. And I don't believe it, but I understand it. And I actually still love the gospel. I actually still love the way that the message has been massaged to and presented to us.
You can,
the way that the scriptures present themselves.
And for those that your first time here on Tang, we do this little thing when there's a mic drop moment. We have a little song. If you're someone that you want to take a drink or smoke, whatever it is you do, this is a moment. It's a mic drop moment. We have little cues.
All I got is my water, like it's hot.
And for me, in the 20 something minutes that you spoke, Brady, that to me, from you, that was the knockout punch. Where it's, I've done my due diligence. You can't tell me. You can't tell me. You don't get to tell me that I haven't done my due diligence. And this is where I have arrived, right? And I understand what I have in my hands. Doesn't mean I believe it. But now more than ever, I get it. I get it. And
yeah.
I think a lot of us hit that point. And by no means can I say that I've went through the to the scholarship level that Brady has. But believe you me, I put hours into reading this book and studying it, and trying to figure out, am I believing in more true things that I'm not, which wasn't is always my it still is always my goal. So when you said that, Brady, when you say I don't believe it, but I get it, for you, the individual, what does that mean to you when you say that?
Yeah. It felt like in my research, I had come face to face with the authors. When I read the Bible in the past, I felt like I was coming face to face with God. And I was doing whatever I had to do to get God out of that text. If that meant missing the error in it, I would miss it. I would find some kind of way to connect the dots. I felt like I was going treasure hunting in the Bible. And I would find ways to get God out of it. And I would look for the incomprehensibility of it. I would look for the divine truth, communicated, the timeless truth, communicated in timely form. I was meeting with God in the text. Having done the research, I said, I no longer feel like I'm eye to eye with God in the text. I feel like I'm eye to eye with ancient human authors. And it makes so much more sense to me now. Because now I don't have to excuse away the things that don't add up as, oh, that's just God being incomprehensible. We're never going to get it because he's infinite. So how would I ever understand him? Rather than having to sweep everything under the rug of God's incomprehensibility. Oh, this ancient author says one thing. This ancient author says another. It's going to be incomprehensible because it's two different people saying two different things that contradict. That's why it seems like a mystery. Like so when I say I get it, it's just I'm looking eye to eye with the authors and saying, good one. You got me for 30. You got me for 30 years. Good one. Y'all got me. No more, but y'all got me.
Yeah.
That's what it is for me.
I hear you. And there's and I'm sure you share this. There's the times where it is I could sit back and smile and kind of chuckle. It's like, all right, you got me for 30, but hopefully I got another 30.
Right.
I got another 30. But they're that by no means minimize the fact that whether it's in our private moments or our alone moments, that it's the you know, man, I whatever the means or the vehicle may or may not have been, I wish I would have known some of this sooner. You know, at least that's how I feel sometimes. And you know, feeling like what are all the other things that I could have been doing, minus this supernatural, you know, influence, you know, in my life. And the I don't believe it, but I get it.
Yeah.
That like there's probably going to be a hashtag on Tang now. As we move forward, and this last one, I'll give a little intro to this because we just talked about this on a stream last week. I want to say it was very, very recent, and we talked about the clergy project and how many people are in you know, part of clergy, or they're pastors, or maybe they're Christian hip hop artists or Christian rock. You know, they're in a Christian rock band, and their livelihood, their income, their everything is based on this belief, right? And within this position, and again, Brady, kudos to you, because I love that you took the time to pick the right words, and that was awesome to watch and to see and to hear, because I could tell you wanted to be precise, because I don't think that any of them are trying to lie, like you even said that. I think it comes down to the courage, and you said that better than I've heard it said so far. It's the courage to say, I may lose everything. I may lose everything by saying any of this out loud, right? And by casting any shadows of a doubt on this at all. And I do. And if you go look at the Pew, you know, the most recent, you know, Pew polls and the results, there is a mass exodus in America anyway, and it's for a reason. And you talk about the equal sign, and that's all I'm going to say. You talk about the equal sign, and this is another one. I was literally sitting in my car when I was listening to this, like the third time, and it hit me like what the magnitude of that equation that you were drawing up, and I was literally in my car like, fuck yeah. So Jena, baby, if you want to play the that last one, I have one more point after that, and we kind of open it up.
Just tell me what you really believe, and stop dancing around the issue. And I'm not going to allow you to lie and mislead me. And I'm going to put these thoughts out there for anybody else who thinks there's more to this, and I want to hear a different take. I want to hear I'm gonna call it a more honest take, but maybe I'm not saying they're being dishonest, but I don't think that many of them are being. Is it honest? I don't think many of them have the courage to say what their theology really means when you hit the equal sign. If you say this and you say this and you say this, you hit the equal sign. To me, it doesn't equal, and I still believe.
All right, we can stop.
And I'm going to challenge a lot of this.
And first of all, thank you, Brady, for being a voice to challenge from the quote unquote leadership or clergy level to challenge it, because we don't as a secular skeptic community, we don't have enough of that. We just flat out don't have enough of that. So first and foremost, thank you for that, and for those that are whether they're wanting to be an educator or a pastor, clergy, or even if they want to be a Christian hip hop artist or in a Christian rock group, again, just trying to be as all encompassing as I can be. When you when you talk about that, the equal sign, I want to focus on that. That this and this doesn't equal this. What exactly do you mean? And what should we do with that? What should they do with that?
Yeah. Oh man, great question. This is where the rubber meets the road. I've had several, and people always think I'm capping when I say stuff like this. I'm not saying these things to try to like make an argument from popularity or even like to spice it up. I've got several people right now, Christian hip hop artists in different countries, some of the most known in their country, like hitting me up like, yo man, I am where you are. And I can't say anything. There are things I'm thinking right now. I'm just like, if I could share them, if people would release me to share these things. But it's the equal sign is once you add up all of the defensive positions that you have to get in to still hold on to the faith. I'll use a reverse analogy here. So as a Christian, I used to talk about all of God's omnis, right? Think about a boxer. Sorry for those who don't like sports, because this is our second sports analogy for the day. But think about a boxer who's unified the belts, right? I've got the IBF or I don't even know what the federations are. I've got all the belts you can have in my weight class. And then imagine you go down a weight class, you get all those belts, and you go up to weight class, you get all those belts. Imagine a boxer with all the belts, just undefeated. I used to talk about God and his omnis that way. All love, all wisdom, all power, all whatever belt you want to attribute to someone, give it to God. He's all the perfections. In the same way that I used to extol God that way, I now look at all the different things I had to do to maintain my faith and say, okay, maybe your God has all those perfections, but defending him, you've got to hold all these L's. You got to hold all these losses, whether it be in logic, whether it be in history, whether it be in science, whether it be in, I'm going to hold all these L's to praise the God who's got all these wins. If I add all those L's up, it does not equal, and this is why I believe it. If I add all these L's up, it equals, why are you believing this again? And like I said, I tried to picture myself going to my loved ones, my unsaved loved ones, and saying, now that I know what I know, and here's why you should believe. And I'm like, I don't even believe this no more. Like, not really. If I add up all the things I'm doing to keep believing it, is that really belief? And so I just had to be real with myself. Like, yo, if I'm doing this to still believe, that ain't really belief. And the people who, I'm reading, whether it be William Lane Craig or whether it be, all these different apologists and theologians, like, I'm adding up what they're saying. I'm just like, okay, I hear you. And you're telling me you still believe, but did you hear you? Because when you say this and this and this, what do you still have? So I don't know if that makes it any clearer, but that, to me, that's the equal sign. Adding up the L's, adding up the moving the pivot, whatever analogy you want to put there, adding up all the different, to me, it doesn't equal something that still looks like belief and to something that I'm willing to believe.
And that's a harsh reality, for Brady, for yourself, Jena, and myself, spending majority of our lifetime believing and buying into this, right? That's the difficult part of it, is realizing that, man, I've been taught, I've been informed that this God, this entity, this deity is automatically attributed with all the W's, right? And we never talk about the L's, right? You talk about, and I was quickly trying to search for it, but I can't find it, so I'll paraphrase. But within the last 2 to 4 weeks, whatever it was, I actually shared a post on my Facebook, because like so my mom took her own life last July, and she was on all the machines, everything to stay alive for, it was about 2 weeks, and in the waiting room, and in the room, they're like putting anointing oil over the doors, or playing praise and worship music, where 2 or more are gathered, there he is in the midst. If you ask any of these things in our name, it should be given to you. But you know all the verses. And I remember sitting in the waiting room, and even on my back porch, like once visiting hours were done, and I'm like, all right, God, if you do happen to be out there, it's showtime, bro. It's game time. This is game time. This is when you show up, because they are doing everything to the T. They're praying the way the book says to pray. They're believing the way the book says to believe, but yet ghost. And guess what? My mom's not here. So where were you, God? If you are all the reason I said that is because I was an omni Christian. God is he's the Mike Tyson of the Mike Tyson. Like I'm the baddest mother on the planet, right? And you there's nothing you can do to stop me, right? Well, but once we really start to dig in, as Brady said, there's a lot of L's that we don't want to talk about. There's a lot of L's that we don't want to talk about. So,
but the faith is construed in such a way, though, that even the L's get turned into W's.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Right. So it's like, we know the will of God. Maybe God wanted to use that to do something in your life. There's all kind of ways to take the L and turn it into a W, so that no matter what happens, God can't lose. He'll never lose, because he's unfalsifiable and unverifiable. And so you just have to hold out hope that in some way, shape, or form. I have a song called Tapestry that just talks about, hey, on the other side of this life, you'll be able to look at the tapestry and see what he was really doing. We're on the side that looks like a mess right now. On the other side, we'll see the beautiful picture he was painting. You say these kinds of things, not realizing that in the meantime, you're toiling away and maybe wasting the only life that you're ever going to have.
Oh, gee.
Yeah, for Jena, that hits home right now, and backstage, by all means, I think we should talk about that for a minute. I think that would be very helpful for you, but I want to make sure that we're respectful of live time here. So we have one more point, and then we'll do a brief Q&A as we wrap up. But and I want to make sure I'm crystal clear when I say this for Brady and anyone listening right now. But both gentlemen have made their poster streams or whatever public, so it's not like I'm talking about anything private. But Brady released his video, and then one of the other members of the Cross Movement, Ambassador, which I'm very familiar with all his content and everything. He did like a response, and I'm not going to bring anything up, but then one question that he asked, because again, I'm not. I hate beef, and I hate all the So I'm not trying to do that. So anybody that thinks I'm trying to stir it, no, get the hell out of here. But he asked a question that I think is actually a very important question to ask from the Christian point of view. And I think it's a healthy question from their worldview. And that is, Brady, you at one point professed and at least felt like or understood that you had either had an experience, a conversation, or something like that with this character named Jesus Christ. And you spent 30 years of your life proclaiming the gospel message of the Savior. Did that in today's lights,
Mhm.
How do you view that quote unquote experience, and how do you how do you discuss that now, and how would you describe that quote unquote experience now, walking away from
Yeah.
that position?
Uh, I look back at that and I look back at that time and I smile because I truly believed. I truly believed the gospel message. Um, we used to always say, you don't have good news without bad news. And I was convinced of the bad news that sin and death entered the world through one man. And that infected me and everybody that I know and everybody who ever lived. And I was in debt to God for my sinfulness. I had offended his holiness just by being human because I'm I take after the first Adam. But God in his grace, God in his love, had come up with a way to save me from myself and from himself, from his wrath. And he had done this since before the foundations of the world. That was bad news because I was going to meet this God one day, but it also contained good news. And I believed that good news, and I was happy to believe it, and I was happy to share it with others. I think there's something very human about that. If I see a car coming and you're in the way, I think there's something very human about me getting you out the way. There's empathy there. There's self-interest, there's interest in the other, there's empathy, there's all these things that makes me say it's a good thing to get you out of the way of that car. In the same way I was helping people get out of the way of God's wrath and hell. I think that's a very human thing to do if you understand the bad news and then there's good news. So I look back and I say, yo, when I thought there was bad news, this is what I did about it. The only good news that I thought that there was, I was telling it. And I'm happy that I did that. I was saving people from the danger that I thought existed. I think it's a very human thing to do. I no longer think that that bad news is true. I no longer think that that good news is true. And so I don't really regret those years. I regret that I believed something that wasn't true. But I'm proud of the way that I responded to what I thought was true at the time.
Yeah, and there's babe, I forgot that there was one more timestamp on there where it was just the time, and just to hit pause on there because this it was that because Brady has a quote on there, about the message behind his story and why he did did that, and said what he said, and basically saying that anything that may have if we can't pull it up, anything that may have caused hurt or harm or anything like that was not my intention. That was never the goal in this. But I love the like the tag or the signature at the end that said, truly, however you will have me.
Yeah.
I still want to be here. I still want to be.
Yeah. If any of my Facebook friends, fam is watching, I've been saying this to my peoples offline. There's a lot of atheist, agnostic, skeptic folks that I build with offline, former Christians offline. And some of them ask me like, yo, why are you on Facebook so much? And I'll be honest with you, my Facebook friends that are watching now, because I don't want to lose you. Like, you are the community that I've known. You are there are people who, when I came out with my deconversion video, people who hit me up like, yo, remember this back in the 1999, I used to call the ministry office and you would talk to me when Cross Movement, the rap group, had an office that people could just call and we would just be on the phone building with them. Like, I've always been the dude to want to stick around after the show and build with people. There are people on Facebook that I've offended because I'm sharing my thoughts and they think I'm mocking the faith. And I've only been trying to get people to think through issues, and maybe antagonistically sometimes, and I've invited people like, yo, you might want to tune out for a while if you can't handle what I'm about to say. But if you stick around, know that I'm going to be here. I'm going to be around because I don't want to lose you. But this is who I am. So like I said, I'm yours, however you'll have me. And there have been gracious people who've been willing to have me as a skeptic. There are others who, there's some who want to tell me I was never saved, and some who want to tell me I'm still saved. I just don't know it.
Of course.
I'm like, when I say however you have me, I mean this me, not the me you want me to be.
Yes.
This me, however
Exactly.
you have me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And let the church say amen. Amen. But I want to read this because it is dare I say poetic to end that, because what Brady did, as far as in the Christian music industry period, but within the Christian hip hop industry and beyond, to wrap it up with this, dare I say poetic, but it shows it shows the intention and the motivation, and it's not to shadow worlds. It's not to be the atheist asshole. It's not to be this combative, attacking individual. So I'll read this quickly. I'm sorry to all those hurt and devastated by this news. I did not make this decision hastily, nor do I take it lightly. Remember, my faith is not your faith, and my loss of faith need not be yours. I have not given any specifics in this video so as to protect those who do not wish to be further troubled by the details. More in time, yours, however you'll have me. And again, I wanted to put that up there because everything that, like I said, that Brady did and Cross Movement did and will continue to do. They're still rocking and rolling. I remember, quickly Brady when like all the I call it the walls of faith, when all my walls of faith crumbled, and I thought back and all of the young people that I stood in front of, and I led through these prayers that were that the hook was the torment of hell and eternal burning and all that. Anyone I was still connected with, any of those young people that are now older, I literally private messaged them and I apologized. And I said, you may still believe, and I'm not trying to. This is not me looking for a debate or questioning you. This is me saying for my own integrity, my own conscience, like you talked about in the video, my own conscience. I feel like I have to do this, and I feel like I need to do this, and I think only maybe 2 or 3 ever responded, which I'm very appreciative of those, but I get that because like you said there, it's like I'm good. I'm worried about the fallout, and I appreciated your approach there.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. I appreciate this. Appreciate you guys. Yeah,
absolutely. And then Jen, anything you want to say before we go to Q&A?
Tons that we don't have time for, to be quite honest. Honestly, I think there was a focus for this, and by all means, you being here again, I deeply appreciate. I know Oz, of course, deeply appreciates. You were his hero, so still are, to be quite honest. But for me, being able to be introduced to you, it's a different meaning and powerful for me, aside from your career. For me, I have a different mindset and angle as far as what my questions, what I want to express and say. But I know also my deepest, I would say, value for you, where you are right now, is to put you in touch with people I know that would carry you and give you all the space and time that you deserve. Absolutely. To have your voice more out there to this atheist community. And virtual community is a different platform than in person, but I think having that reach, I would love to offer to you and afford you. We can discuss that backstage, of course, but that is something I want to lend to you, of course. But no, I know we had a comment I saved and there's a question in the chat too. So there's 2 questions. So I'll just kind of go in order here. A comment earlier on that I appreciated was, I appreciate the openness. Brady could have dealt with this quietly, especially knowing the backlash, but he remained open. So that spoke volumes to me. And obviously that's a great, valuable compliment to you. One particular question from our viewers. Hey, Ox, do you still make music outside of religion?
This is kind of a odd one for me. People have been asking this. It's weird for me to think about making music these days. I still love hip hop. I still appreciate rap to no end. I hope one day I can get to the point where I'm able to put words together again. But for me, I only ever got good writing raps because I appreciated the gospel message and I thought it deserved a better attempt to tell it. And so as my appreciation for the gospel grew, my skill level grew because I'm like, yo, it deserves a better effort to tell it. Let me get better. Let me get better. So now that I don't believe the gospel, when I think about writing raps, the best analogy I have is it's almost like taking your new girlfriend to you and your old girlfriend's favorite restaurant. Like when I think about writing raps now, I'm like, nah, I was doing it for God. I can't do it. I can't do that for not God. So I don't know if I'll ever get to that point, but right now music is the furthest thing from my mind. I just wrote the book. The book was as creative as many of the raps that I've written. Like everything that I do, I try to be super creative in doing. So I don't know if I'll get back to bars, but I think I'll always be a creative. So we'll see. Yeah.
I like that. No, that's good. I think there was still be an appreciation and a newfound, space for you to still be that creative and find something else that can empower you where you are now. So I love that. Thank you. And one final question we had here from Landon T. Brady, do you still talk to Ambassador? He recently said that you are one of the most gifted lyricists he's ever heard. God bless.
Yeah, what's up, Landon? Thanks for that question. So we are as a group, everybody is trying to figure out how they're going to respond. A, to me, B, to the world in light of me. And I think we're going to we'll be figuring out what our backstage, what our behind the scenes relationships will look like in light of how gracious, how fair, how humane we are to each other in these as the conversations go more public. So yeah, we're still in relationship. It's just very it's been rocked by the waves of my deconversion. So
yeah, naturally, and I think that is naturally to be expected. But it's good that you and the rest of the group still have communication, conversation, strategizing. What do we do moving forward? I think that's beautiful. I appreciate that it's not an outcasting type of situation. So
we don't know that it's not yet. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
we don't know.
Poison the water already.
I actually want to jump in here. And now being away from the faith for 5 years or whatever now, our Christian brother and sister, please listen. When we walk away from the faith, that doesn't mean we don't want to be your friends anymore. That doesn't mean that we don't still love you, the individual, anymore. So really all we want is for you to just keep loving us the way you told us you loved us.
Yes.
When we aligned and believed the way you did. Because the only thing that's changed is we disagree on whether a God exists or not.
That's it.
That's it. We're still the same people. I'm still the same guy that I can be brass, but I'm a teddy bear and I'll shed tears and I love loving people and I love taking care of people. I'm still that dude.
Yeah.
The only thing that ever changed is I no longer believe in the God. So all I would say, and for Brady, for myself, for Jena, and all those that have walked away, We just want all we want is for you to keep loving us the
Mhm.
way you said you loved us.
And if I
Right.
could add on that, just from my particular case,
Please.
like there are people right now, even within my old group, who would say, who recently said they don't know who this new Brady is, like because I've been so vocal against the faith, or just with my views, like I was never like this. I was never, and I'm like, well, you stood on stages with me while I rapped antagonistic verses to non-believers. Like I'm the same dude now. You just don't like who I'm antagonizing.
Right.
I'm the same person that will hang out for hours with you, building after a show, after a podcast, or after whatever. I'm the same person who will give you my last whatever I have. I'm the same person. You just have an issue with who I'm antagonizing now.
Yes. I'll add an additional extension, and we have a final question to that. I would say I am, for me, the same person that I was when I was a believer, if not more of a person, because when the moment I came out, I became more open and honest with a whole other things.
Yep.
It was this, okay, what else do I have to hide? Not to say I was a disingenuous person, not to say I was a terrible human being or did harm intentionally to others. Now I'm honest more, not just to you, but to myself. So I'm even further more of a better person outside of my faith. But that was my 2 cents. So a question here from ZOE, because I won't assume pronouns, they put this in the chat twice, so I don't want to miss it. Phanatik, do you believe every major, I'm going to say religion, is in the same boat as Christianity?
Yeah, great question. And this may be sort of hypocritical of me to say this, or just unfair to say this, because it's like, okay, so your religion is not true. Are you saying, how do you know no other religion is true? One, I did study world religions, albeit I studied it as a Christian, but I did study world religions. I think Christianity got me so into the mindset of a God who would reveal himself to me. I got so used to that idea that when I have to come to terms with, oh, you mean this God didn't reveal himself to me? Well, now I don't think any God did. But to think that there is a God out there who has not yet revealed himself to me is offensive to me now, because Christianity got me so used to the idea of a God who would reveal himself to me. But I was perfectly fine with my God not revealing himself to other people, other religions all this time. So it's like, well, if that could happen, why could it not be that some other God has just not revealed himself to me? It's possible, but I actually do think that the revealed religions, when I look at what they all claim, even though Christians will say, yeah, but look at the unique claims of Christianity, to me, they're not so unique. You find them in ancient myths. You find them in Greco-Roman myths. You find this amalgamation all over the world. But I will say, I do think that all of the revealed religions are made of the same stuff. They're the best of what the men and women at that time had to offer.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And yes, you're welcome. He says they said thank you. I think that was all the question. This simultaneously may answer. There was an additional one I just caught from Carl Browning. Do you feel you're 100% certain that the Bible is false? So it may kind of play into what you just responded, but you can go ahead and respond if you want.
Well, when you say 100%, I think you can talk about history and still be saying true things about history. So that wouldn't make it 100% false. Was Israel a real people group? Is Egypt a real place? There are true things in the Bible. You could tell a story right now about the Civil War, about Gettysburg, the battle at Gettysburg. You can tell all kinds of stories about history and contain true details. But the point that you're making does not necessarily have to be true. If you said the South won the Civil War, and you give all the details about these different battles, but you just change the outcome, and the South won, like, is that 100% false? No, soldiers did fight at Gettysburg. Custard, not Custard. I'm not thinking straight right now, but there were generals and there were battles that you could really talk about, and that would make your your tale not 100% false. And so I think that you might very well have true things in the Bible. I will say I do believe that 100% of the supernatural claims in the Bible are false. Can I prove that? I think the onus is on the person that's claiming that it's true to prove that it's true.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, yes, the burden of proof does lie on your shoulders. You're claiming that there is a supernatural. So it is yes, the onus, as Brady said, the onus is on you to be able to demonstrate and show the rest of us that there is this supernatural world that surrounds us that dictates how we should or should not act, should or should not speak, how we should or should not engage with each other, right? So it's yes, the onus is upon you. And then, Jenna, there was one more question there by Omni, and then we can wrap it up.
Yes. Okay. Final question here. Do you plan on still continuing the conversation with apologists, or is it time for a new chapter?
So I have a few things in the works right now because there is one particular apologist who has taken it upon himself to arrange a gaggle of folks to just respond to different chapters of my book or my book overall. And every day there's a new video, there's a new response video to my book. And so far it's just been me trying to respond to all this. Now I have a few folks who are like, yo, we got you. So I'm going to, but part of it is I don't know if I want to, because some of it is just petty. Like no one that I've heard talk about the book so far has done a good job of even summing up what I'm saying in the book. So they're not being fair to me. And I'm not trying to play the race card. I think some of these folks really think because I'm Black or because I'm urban, that they don't have to take my book seriously as an academic work. But like I handle my business when it comes to my scholastics. And I'm proud of what I produced. So part of me is like, just on some, let me just show you how dope of a book it is, just academically. I want to kind of get in the ring with some of these folks. But then part of me is just like, yo, I did my job. It's there. If you want to read it, check it out. If the apologists that I've been seeing, if they were more fair, more honest, more thoughtful, then I think there would be a fruitful discussion to be had. None of them so far has convinced me that it would be a fruitful discussion. The day that I see that it might be, I think I would welcome, and I would love to engage in a, not debate, but discussion, because I think these issues need to be discussed. Yeah.
Absolutely. Hell, I love to be a part of that. See what that experience would be like. That'd be interesting. No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And as we wrap it up, Brady, if you just give us like 1 or 2 minutes backstage when we wrap up. But I'm going to put the 1 second link in the. If you want to continue the conversation in Brady, I want to be respectful of your time, so we'll wrap it up here. If you want, I put the link in there. We continue this conversation in our Discord. That way, those that are in the chat, if you have further questions, I'll be there. Jen will be there. If Brady has time, cool. If not, we love you and appreciate you for being here. But we'll do the damn thing in there. But as we wrap it up, Brady, you just dropped a book. So one more time, let's plug that book. Let's talk about it, and we'll make sure we get all the links and everything out for everybody. But tell us about the book, man.
Yeah, Let There Be Gaslight. Of course, playing off the one of the opening verses in Genesis, Let There Be Light. Gaslighting is basically just you're continuing to make someone think the problem is not you, it's them. And as I began to investigate my faith, I felt like I kept running into apologists, theologians, pastors who were making me feel like the problem was me, not this text. And so I said, no, I see what's going on here. The book is me pulling from a bunch of different authors, apologists, theologians, Old Testament scholars, most of them believers with reputable ministries and decades in the faith, and then some non-believers. Of course, I quote Dr. Joshua Bowen and others. but it's pulling these folks into a discussion, and it's an apologetic for my disbelief. Here's why I don't believe. And so I think it's a great book for anybody who, if you value the Bible. There's some people who say, I believe, and I don't even really need the Bible because I know my experiences. If that's you, this book won't mean anything to you. If you believe because of the Bible, this book is for you. This book will kind of walk you through. Here's how Christians are having to rethink what they always thought the Bible said. And here's why that's not an option for me. I don't think it's an honest route. That's what the book is.
Awesome. And when you go, you can follow the link or just go to Amazon and just type that shit in, y'all. buy the book. Buy it to support, but also it's always about more information, more education, more and again trying to make sure to the best we can as humans, because we're all navigating this thing that we call life and reality the best that we know how. And the more information we can take in, the better. But Let There Be Gaslight by Brady Goodwin Jr., aka Phanatik, aka awesome fucking guest. Thank you, man, for
my pleasure.
And this was as I said, leading up to the show, I knew this was going to be interesting and awesome at the same time, because this was someone that I looked up to. That was now I can say it because we're at the end of the show, so it's not like I'm blowing smoke up someone's ass. This was someone I looked up to. Was one of my heroes as a Christian, hip hop artist, and now having this conversation is crazy, but it's further quote unquote enlightenment and information and education. And each time we get to hear about someone's experience deconstructing and deconverting, hopefully you get to take even if it's just one little nugget that you get to take away from it. Do that and use that in your conversations with other people that may be questioning or doubting or being skeptical, because we none of us know it all. So take as many pieces from as many people's stories, and they're exiting this thing we call faith and religion, and apply that to the conversation. So again, Brady, it was awesome having you on, man.
My pleasure.
I appreciate you jumping on. Jena, thanks for being the awesome host that you always, the hostess with the hostess.
Of course. Thank you, dear. And yes, thank you, Brady, for, gracing us with your presence. No, really, I appreciate hearing about you and the excitement I heard from Oz. And when we had reviewed your conversation earlier in the year, I was like, yeah, I'm there. This, I connect. And this was, especially where I was then and now, really, it thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. For sure.
Absolutely. And remember tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern time. We're gonna help Esther, the Afro-humanist, and she just recently lost her father, to raise money as far as funeral, burial, all that. Please tune in and let's help her and her family. Let's support the time of need. But other than that, everybody in the chat, thanks for hanging out tonight. Y'all came out in droves, and we appreciate that. Love y'all, and Tang Gang.
See you next time.
Chop it up. 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 Chop it up.